I was 3 clicks away from shutting down my company when the wire transfer came through. $250,000. No name. No message. Just a reference number that led to a shell corporation in Delaware I'd never heard of. I stared at my laptop screen in my studio apartment, the same apartment where I'd been eating instant ramen for dinner 4 nights a week, where my landlord had started leaving passive-aggressive notes about timely rent payment, where I'd cried myself to sleep more times than I'd admit to anyone. My startup Cypher was supposed to change everything. A cybersecurity platform designed specifically for small businesses, affordable, intuitive, powerful. I'd spent 2 years building it, pitching it, believing in it when nobody else would. And I'd spent the last 6 months watching it die. But now, someone believed. Someone I didn't know. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt suspicious. Because in my experience, money doesn't just appear. Not for women like me. Not without strings, expectations, or some man who thinks $250,000 buys him decision-making power over my vision. I'd been rejected by 43 venture capital firms. 43. I kept a spreadsheet because I'm petty like that, because I wanted to remember every single person who looked at my pitch deck, looked at me, and decided I wasn't worth the risk. The market's too saturated. We don't see a clear path to profitability. Have you considered finding a technical co-founder? Translation: a man. The worst part wasn't even the rejection. It was the smile that came with it, the patronizing, encouraging smile that said you're so brave for trying. I wasn't brave. I was desperate. Desperate enough that when my ex-boyfriend Brent offered to introduce me to his connections, if I just gave him another chance, I almost considered it. Almost. The transfer had come through at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'd been updating my resume, preparing to go back to corporate cybersecurity, back to being someone's employee, back to safe. Now, I was staring at a number that changed everything and explained nothing. I picked up my phone. Put it down. Picked it up again. There was only one person I wanted to call in that moment. One person who would have understood the magnitude of this without me having to explain. One person who used to know me better than I knew myself. But Vanessa hadn't spoken to me in 7 years. And even if she had, I wouldn't have called her. Some distances are too far to cross, even with good news. I opened my banking app one more time, just to make sure the money was real. It was. 6 figures, sitting there like an answer to a prayer I'd stopped praying. Before I continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment. I read every single one. I forwarded the transaction details to my lawyer at 6 a.m. the next morning, along with a message: find out who this is. Everything you can. His response came 3 hours later, working on it. In the meantime, congratulations. You're solvent. Solvent. What a word. What a low bar for celebration. But I did celebrate, in my own way. I paid my rent on time. I bought groceries without checking my bank balance first. I ordered the salmon at lunch instead of the cheapest thing on the menu. And I got back to work. The money bought me time, but it didn't buy me peace. I grew up understanding that nothing comes for free. My mother taught me that, not through words, but through the way she worked 3 jobs after my father left. Through the way she smiled at bill collectors on the phone while her hands shook. Through the way she told Vanessa and me that we were rich in love, while we wore thrift store clothes to school. Vanessa and I were twins, but we never looked identical. I was darker, taller, sharper around the edges. She was softer, lighter-skinned, the one strangers always seemed to trust faster. People said she had good hair. They said I had attitude. We used to joke that we were each other's other half. She was the dreamer, I was the planner. She believed in magic, I believed in spreadsheets. She wanted to save the world, I wanted to save us. The last time I saw her, we were 25 years old, standing in our mother's kitchen after the funeral. Mama had died of a stroke, sudden, cruel, the kind of death that doesn't give you time to say the things you need to say. Vanessa wanted to sell the house immediately. I wanted to keep it. We can't afford it, Jazz, she'd said, using the nickname only she was allowed to use. The mortgage, the repairs, it's too much. So we just erase her? Erase everything she worked for. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, Nessa? Because it sounds like you want to run. Like you always do when things get hard. Her face had changed then. Closed off. Like a door slamming shut. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you, I'd shot back. I know you're already planning your exit. Some new city, some new life, leaving me here to deal with everything alone. She'd looked at me for a long moment, and I'd seen something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger. Something deeper. Something like grief. You're right, she'd said quietly. I am leaving. And maybe that's better for both of us. She'd walked out that day and never came back. No calls. No texts. No forwarding address. I'd hired a private investigator 6 months later, just to make sure she was alive. He'd found nothing. It was like she'd erased herself. For a while, I was angry. Then I was worried. Then I was just empty. I learned to stop talking about her. People would ask if I had siblings, and I'd say, I had a sister. Past tense. It was easier than explaining. But late at night, when I was building Cypher, I'd sometimes imagine showing it to her. Imagine her being proud of me. Imagine her saying, I knew you could do it, Jazz. That's the thing about abandonment. It doesn't just take the person. It takes the future you imagined with them too. So when the money appeared, the first thing I felt, under the relief, under the gratitude, was suspicion. Because in my experience, invisible saviors don't exist. My lawyer, David Hudson, called me 2 weeks after the transfer. You sitting down? He asked. Should I be? The Shell Corporation traces back to a private equity firm in New York. Blackwood Ventures. They're discreet. High net worth clients, anonymous investments. I can't get names without a subpoena, and even then. So we don't know who it is. No. But Jasmine, they've been watching you. The timing of this transfer came right after your pitch to Summit Capital fell through. Like they knew. My skin went cold. Someone's been tracking my pitches? Or they're connected to someone who is. This isn't random. Whoever this is, they know you. They know your company. And they want you to succeed. Or they want leverage. David was quiet for a moment. That's also possible. I thanked him and hung up. Then I did what I always do when I'm scared. I worked. I hired 2 developers I'd been trying to afford for months. I upgraded our server infrastructure. I booked a booth at TechCrunch Disrupt, the conference I'd been praying I could attend. Cypher needed to be perfect. Because whoever was funding me, I wasn't going to waste their investment. And I wasn't going to owe anyone anything I couldn't pay back. My mother used to say, pride is expensive, baby girl. She was right. But so is dependency. The booth at TechCrunch Disrupt cost me $8,000 I wouldn't have had without my mystery investor. I told myself it was worth it. 3 days of exposure, hundreds of potential clients, investors circling like sharks looking for the next big thing. This was my shot. I wore my best blazer, the navy one I'd bought for my first VC pitch 2 years ago, back when I still believed confidence could be purchased. My natural hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. Professional. Polished. Unthreatening. I hated that I still thought in those terms. The conference floor was overwhelming, a maze of startups screaming for attention, each booth more elaborate than the last. My setup was modest, a banner with a Cypher logo, 2 monitors displaying our platform, and a bowl of branded stress balls because apparently that's what you do at these things. By noon on day 1, I'd given my pitch 17 times. 12 people took my card. 3 seemed genuinely interested. 1 was a recruiter trying to poach me for Google. You've got something here, he'd said, looking at our demo. But why kill yourself on a startup when you could have stability? Benefits? A team. I'd smiled. Because it's mine. He'd shrugged, like I'd just turned down a life raft while drowning. Maybe I had. That's when I saw her. Not Vanessa. I would have recognized Vanessa anywhere, even after 7 years. This woman was tall, elegant, mid-40s, with silver streaks in her dark hair and the kind of posture that said she'd never doubted herself a day in her life. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my entire booth. She stopped in front of my display, studied the screens, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Jasmine Williams, she asked. That's me. I'm Catherine Reed. I work with Blackwood Ventures. My heart stopped. She smiled, warm, genuine, disarming. I wanted to meet the woman behind Cypher. Your platform is impressive. Very impressive. I tried to keep my voice steady. Blackwood. You're the ones who believe in your vision. Yes. She extended her hand. May I take you to coffee? We sat in the conference center Starbucks, surrounded by the hum of 1,000 conversations, and Catherine Reed told me things I'd been desperate to hear for 2 years. Blackwood had been following my company since my second round of pitches. They specialized in high-potential founders from underrepresented backgrounds, her words, not mine, though I appreciated that she didn't dance around it. We don't invest blindly, she said, stirring her espresso. We invest in people we believe will change industries. You're one of those people. Why anonymously? She tilted her head. Would you have accepted if you'd known it came with oversight? Questions? Board meetings? She had me there. We want you to build Cypher your way, she continued. No interference. No controlling interest. Just support when you need it. That's not how venture capital works. It's how we work. She slid a folder across the table. This is a proposal for a second round of funding. $2 million. Same terms as before, silent partnership, no equity stake, no board seat. Just growth capital. I stared at the folder like it might explode. Why? I asked. Why me? Why Cypher? There are 1,000 startups you could fund. Catherine looked at me for a long moment, and something flickered across her face. Something almost sad. Because someone who cares about you very much asked us to. The coffee shop sounds faded to white noise. Who? I can't tell you that. I'm sorry. But I can tell you this. They've been watching you for years. They've seen every pitch you've made, every obstacle you've overcome. And they believe in you more than you believe in yourself. My throat tightened. That doesn't make sense. I don't have anyone like that. Maybe you do and you don't realize it. I thought of my mother, gone 7 years now. I thought of Brian, my ex, who'd never believed Cypher would work. I thought of old friends who drifted away when I couldn't afford to keep up with their lives anymore. And I thought of Vanessa. No. Impossible. Vanessa was gone. Vanessa had cut me off. Vanessa didn't have the kind of money that could move through private equity firms and shell corporations. I need time to think, I said. Catherine nodded, standing. Take all the time you need. But Jasmine, don't let pride keep you from accepting help. We all need it sometimes. She left me sitting there with a $2 million proposal and a head full of questions I couldn't answer. I called David that night from my hotel room. They approached you in person? He sounded alarmed. That's not standard. Anonymous investors stay anonymous. She said someone who cares about me asked them to invest. Family? Old mentor. I don't have either of those things anymore. He was quiet. What do you want to do? I looked at the folder on the bed, still unopened. I want to know who it is. That might not be possible. Then I want to make a decision I can live with. I opened the folder. Read every page. Every clause. Every promise. It was clean. Too clean. No hidden agendas. No strings. No traps. Just belief. The kind I'd been searching for my entire life. I signed the papers at midnight. And I told myself it didn't matter who was behind it. But I was lying. It mattered more than anything. The money changed everything and nothing. Cypher went from surviving to scaling. I hired a full engineering team, 5 developers, a UX designer, a project manager. We moved out of my apartment and into a real office in Oakland, a renovated warehouse space with exposed brick and windows that actually opened. I had business cards printed on thick, expensive cardstock. I bought a decent car, nothing flashy, just reliable. I started sleeping more than 4 hours a night. From the outside, I looked like I was winning. From the inside, I felt like an imposter wearing someone else's success. Every decision I made, I questioned. Was this what I wanted, or what my invisible benefactor expected? Every hire, every pivot, every product update, I wondered if they were watching. If they approved. If I was living up to whatever vision they had for me. Catherine checked in monthly. Always brief, always supportive, never intrusive. How's the team integrating? Revenue projections on track? Anything you need from us? She never pushed. Never asked for reports or metrics. It should have felt freeing. Instead, it felt like waiting for the other shoe to drop. 3 months after the second round of funding, we landed our first major client, a regional hospital network that needed to secure patient data across 40 locations. It was a $300,000 contract, the kind of deal that validated everything I'd been building. I called my team into the conference room and told them. They cheered. Someone popped a bottle of cheap champagne. Brent, my lead developer, hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. "You did it, boss," he said. "You actually did it." But that night, alone in my apartment, I didn't feel victorious. I felt lonely. There was no one to call. No one who'd known me before Cypher, before the funding, before I became Jasmine Williams, CEO. I drafted a text to Vanessa's old number, the one that had been disconnected for years. "I landed a major client today. Remember when we used to talk about changing the world? I think I might actually be doing it." I stared at it for 10 minutes. Then I deleted it. Vanessa had made her choice. I'd made mine. We were strangers now. The problems started small. A competitor, SecureSmall, launched a platform that looked suspiciously similar to Cypher. Same target market, same pricing model, even similar UI elements. My lawyer said we couldn't prove IP theft, but the timing felt intentional. Then a tech blog ran a piece. Can Cypher scale? Questions about Oakland startups' funding sources. The article was careful, just vague enough to avoid being actionable. It questioned where my money came from, implied I might have connections that gave me unfair advantages, suggested that my success was less about my product and more about who I knew. The comments section was worse. Another diversity hire playing entrepreneur. Let's see if she can actually deliver or if this is just VC virtue signaling. Bet she slept her way to that funding. I read every comment. I know you're not supposed to, but I couldn't stop myself. Brent found me in my office at 11 p.m., still scrolling. Jazz. Stop. They're calling me a fraud. They're trolls on the internet. They don't matter. They matter if they cost us clients. They matter if investors start asking questions. He sat down across from me. You know what matters? The product. The team. The clients who trust us. That's real. The rest is noise. I wanted to believe him. But the next morning, 2 potential clients postponed their meetings. Just want to do more due diligence, they said. No rush. Catherine called that afternoon. I saw the article, she said. Ignore it. This happens to every successful founder. Especially women. Especially women of color. It's affecting business. It's affecting your confidence. That's different. Her voice softened. Jasmine, you've built something remarkable. Don't let fear make you small. I'm not afraid. Aren't you? I hung up angry. Not at her, at myself. Because she was right. I was afraid. Afraid that the success wasn't real. That I didn't deserve it. That someone would discover I was just a girl from East Oakland who got lucky, who had a secret benefactor she couldn't even name, who was building a house of cards that would collapse the moment the wind changed direction. That night, I worked until 3 a.m. on a new feature, multi-factor authentication with biometric integration. Something none of our competitors had. Something that would prove we weren't just copying trends. I was running on coffee and spite. It was the most productive I'd been in weeks. 2 weeks later, we lost the hospital contract. They called it a budget reallocation. But I knew what it was. They'd read the article, done their research, found nothing concrete but enough smoke to make them nervous. $300,000, gone. I sat in my car in the parking lot and screamed. Just screamed until my throat hurt and my hands shook on the steering wheel. Then I called Catherine. I need help, I said. Tell me. I need a PR firm. Someone who can control the narrative, get ahead of this before it gets worse. Done. I'll send you 3 recommendations by end of day. Catherine, who's behind this? Who's funding me? Because if I'm going to defend myself, I need to know what I'm defending. Silence. You know I can't tell you that. Can't or won't. Both. Her voice was gentle. I understand your frustration. But the terms are clear. Anonymous means anonymous. Even if it's costing me everything? It's not costing you everything. You're having a setback. That's not the same thing. I wanted to throw my phone out the window. Instead, I thanked her and hung up. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in years. I searched for Vanessa online. Not the half-hearted searches I'd done before, the occasional Facebook check, the LinkedIn scroll. I mean really searched. I hired the same private investigator I'd used years ago, gave him double his usual rate, told him to find anything. 3 days later, he called. I've got something, he said. It's not much, but it's more than last time. Tell me. 7 years ago, right around when she disappeared, Vanessa Williams changed her name. Legally. She goes by Vanessa Blake now. My heart hammered. Why would she do that? People change names for a lot of reasons. Privacy, fresh start, escaping something. I can't tell you which without more digging. Keep digging. There's more. She's done well for herself. Very well. I found a property record in Manhattan. Upper East Side. $4.2 million. The world tilted. That's not possible. She was a social worker when I last saw her. She didn't have that kind of money. She does now. And Jasmine, I found something else. A board membership. She sits on the advisory board for a private equity firm. Which one? He hesitated. Blackwood Ventures. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch with my laptop, staring at the information the investigator had sent. Property records. Board memberships. A single photograph from a charity gala 3 years ago, Vanessa in a floor-length gown, hair styled in soft waves, smiling at the camera like she belonged in that world. She looked different. Confident. Wealthy. Like someone who'd never eaten ramen for dinner 4 nights straight. Like someone who'd never had to choose between electricity and groceries. Like a stranger wearing my sister's face. Vanessa Blake. Even her name was a betrayal. Blake was our father's middle name, the father who'd left us when we were 8, who sent birthday cards twice and then stopped pretending to care. She'd taken his name and erased ours. Erased me. I called the investigator at 6 a.m. I need everything, I said. How she made her money. Where she's been. What she's been doing for 7 years. Everything. That's going to take time. I'll pay whatever it costs. He paused. Jasmine, are you sure you want to know? Sometimes the truth is harder than the mystery. I'm sure. I wasn't sure. But I couldn't live with not knowing anymore. For 2 weeks, I moved through my life like a ghost. I showed up to meetings, made decisions, smiled at my team. But inside, I was unraveling. Every conversation with Catherine felt like a lie now. Every dollar in my account felt tainted. Every success felt borrowed. Had Vanessa been watching me this whole time? Had she seen me struggle, seen me fail, seen me break down in my apartment and done nothing except throw money at the problem? Why hide? Why not just come back? Why send strangers to deliver what family should have given freely? Brent noticed something was wrong. You're distracted, he said one afternoon, finding me staring at my computer screen without seeing it. What's going on? Just thinking about the PR strategy. You're a terrible liar. He sat down. Talk to me. I almost told him. Almost said, I think my dead twin sister is secretly funding my company and I don't know whether to feel grateful or furious. But dead wasn't right. She'd just been dead to me. Family stuff, I said instead. Old wounds. He nodded, didn't push. Brent was good like that. For what it's worth, he said, you're one of the strongest people I know. Whatever you're dealing with, you'll handle it. I wished I had his faith. The investigator's full report arrived on a Thursday. I read it 3 times, trying to make sense of a story I didn't want to believe. After our mother's funeral, Vanessa had moved to New York with $8,000 in savings, everything she had. She'd worked 2 jobs while taking night classes in finance at NYU. Within 3 years, She'd landed a position at a hedge fund. Within 5, she'd made her first million through a combination of brutal work hours, smart investments, and apparently, a gift for seeing patterns in markets that others missed. She'd networked aggressively, changed her name to distance herself from her past, built a reputation as someone who invested in overlooked opportunities, which apparently included her own sister's startup. The report included financial records that made my head spin. By 30, Vanessa had amassed a fortune north of $40 million. She sat on 3 boards. She'd invested in 14 companies, 12 of which had succeeded. She'd become everything we used to say we'd never be: ruthless, distant, willing to sacrifice relationships for success. She'd become our father. And she'd been watching me the entire time. There were notes in the report, receipts the investigator had found through some connection I didn't want to know about. Vanessa had tracked every pitch I'd made. She'd received alerts whenever Cypher was mentioned in the press. She'd known about every rejection, every setback, every late-night breakdown I'd posted on my private Instagram and then deleted. She'd known, and she'd waited. Until I was desperate enough that accepting anonymous help felt like the only option. I called Catherine. "I know," I said when she answered. "I know it's Vanessa." Silence on the other end. Long enough that I thought she might deny it. "How did you find out? Does it matter?" "To her, probably." Catherine sighed. "Jasmine, I can't discuss this without her permission. She's my sister. My twin. She disappeared for 7 years, and then what, decided to play fairy godmother? What kind of sick game is this?" "It's not a game." Catherine's voice was firm. "She's been trying to help you. By lying? By hiding? By making me feel like I'm losing my mind trying to figure out who's funding me. By giving you what you needed without making you feel like you owed her. Jasmine, do you have any idea how many times she's wanted to reach out? How many times I've had to talk her out of showing up at your office just to see you?" My throat closed. "Then why didn't she?" "Because she knew you'd refuse her help if you knew it was from her. Because she knew you were angry. Because she thought giving you space and support was better than forcing a confrontation you weren't ready for. That's not her decision to make." "No," Catherine agreed. "It's not. And for what it's worth, I've told her that. Many times." I sat down on my office floor, back against the wall. "Where is she?" "New York." "I want to see her." "Are you sure?" "No. But I'm going anyway." Catherine was quiet for a moment. "I'll arrange it. But Jasmine, be prepared. This conversation, it's going to be hard. For both of you." "Good," I said. "It should be." I booked a flight for the next morning. That night, I went through old photos, the few I'd kept from before. Vanessa and me at 6, missing our front teeth, arms around each other. At 12, dressed identically because Mama thought it was cute even though we hated it. At 16, at our high school graduation, her holding my hand because I was terrified to walk across that stage. At 25, at Mama's funeral, standing on opposite sides of the grave because we couldn't stand to be close. I'd told myself for 7 years that I didn't miss her. I'd told myself I was better off alone. I'd told myself that whatever she was doing, wherever she was, it had nothing to do with me anymore. I'd been wrong about all of it. And now I was flying to New York to face the person I'd spent 7 years trying to forget. The person who'd apparently spent 7 years trying to save me. I didn't know which one of us would survive this conversation. But I knew we couldn't keep living in this strange, twisted silence. Not anymore. The address Catherine gave me led to a building in Tribeca that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Glass and steel, doorman in a crisp uniform, the kind of place where even the lobby had art that probably cost more than my first year of funding. I stood across the street for 20 minutes, trying to breathe normally. People rushed past me, New Yorkers with their purposeful strides and expensive coats, everyone moving like they knew exactly where they belonged. I felt like a fraud in my best blazer, the Oakland girl playing dress-up in her sister's world. Finally, I crossed the street. The doorman smiled professionally. "Name, please." "Jasmine Williams. I'm here to see Vanessa Blake." He checked his tablet, nodded. 23rd floor. "She's expecting you." The elevator ride felt like falling in slow motion. I'd rehearsed what I'd say. Practiced my anger, my hurt, my questions. But as the numbers climbed, 12, 15, 18, everything I'd prepared evaporated. By the time the doors opened on 23, I felt like I was 16 again, about to confront Vanessa for borrowing my favorite jacket without asking. Except this wasn't about a jacket. This was about 7 years. About abandonment. About money and silence and the particular cruelty of help that comes without explanation. Her door was at the end of the hall. Glossy black with a silver 23C. I knocked before I could change my mind. Footsteps. A pause. The door opened. And there she was. Vanessa looked like a version of herself I'd never met. Her hair was straightened, cut into a sharp bob. She wore tailored gray pants and a silk blouse, minimal jewelry, subtle makeup. Professional. Polished. Put together in a way that felt like armor. But her eyes were the same. That particular shade of brown, lighter than mine, with flecks of gold that caught the light. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said very quietly, "Hi, Jazz." That name. That stupid nickname that only she used. It broke something in me. "Don't call me that." She flinched. "Okay. Jasmine. Come in." Her apartment was exactly what I'd expected, and somehow worse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. Furniture that looked like it had been curated, not bought. Art on the walls, real art, not posters. A life that screamed success in the language of people who'd never worried about money. "Can I get you something? Water? Coffee?" An explanation. My voice came out harder than I intended. 7 years, Nessa. You disappeared for 7 years and now I find out you've been… What? Watching me? Funding me like I'm some charity case. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you abandoned me, made millions, and decided to throw some money my way to feel better about yourself. She closed her eyes. "Sit down. Please. This is going to take a while." "I don't want to sit." "Jasmine." Her voice cracked on my name. "Please." I sat. Not because I wanted to, but because something in her voice reminded me of the sister I used to know. The one who cried at sad commercials. The one who couldn't lie to save her life. Vanessa sat across from me, hands folded in her lap like she was at a job interview. "After the funeral," she began, "after our fight, I left because I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Mama was gone and you were so angry and I felt like I was drowning. So you ran." "I ran," she agreed. "I came to New York with barely anything. Got a studio apartment in Washington Heights that had roaches and a radiator that only worked half the time. I worked as a receptionist during the day and waitressed at night. It was awful. I was awful, depressed, broke, totally lost." She paused, looking out the window. "One night, I served this woman at the restaurant. She was there alone, working on her laptop, and she saw me crying in the corner after a particularly horrible customer. She asked if I was okay. And I just broke. Told her everything. About Mama. About you. About how I destroyed the only family I had left." "Who was she?" "A hedge fund manager. She told me I reminded her of herself at my age, smart but aimless, running from something. She offered me an internship. Said if I was willing to work harder than I'd ever worked, she'd teach me everything she knew." Vanessa's eyes met mine. "So I did. I worked 80-hour weeks. Learned finance, trading, investment strategies. I changed my name because I wanted to start over. Because every time someone called me Vanessa Williams, I thought of you and what I'd lost and I couldn't function. Blake felt like armor. Protection. From me. From grief." Her voice broke. "I made my first million 3 years in. It felt empty. Like play money. Like it didn't matter because I had no one to share it with. I thought about calling you so many times, but what would I say? Sorry I disappeared, but hey, I'm rich now?" I wanted to stay angry. Wanted to hold on to the hurt. But something in her voice was pulling at me. "When did you start watching me?" I asked. She looked down. "Immediately. I never stopped. I had Google alerts set up for your name. Followed every social media account you had, even the private ones. I'm sorry, I know that's invasive, but I needed to know you were okay. When you started Cypher, I read every article, watched every pitch video you posted. I was so proud of you, Jazz. So incredibly proud. Then why not just call? Why all this elaborate secret investor nonsense? Because you hated me. The words burst out of her. Because the last thing you said to me was that I always run when things get hard. And you were right. So how could I come back? How could I show up after years of silence and offer you money? You would have thrown it in my face. You would have told me to leave. And you would have been justified. Tears were streaming down her face now. So I thought, maybe I could help anyway. Maybe I could support your dream without making it about me. Without forcing you to forgive me or deal with me or even acknowledge me. I just wanted you to succeed, Jasmine. Even if you never knew it was me. Even if I never got credit. I just wanted my sister to have everything she deserved. I felt something crack in my chest. You should have told me. I know. You should have given me the choice. I know. You don't get to decide what's best for me, Nessa. That's not love. That's control. She nodded, wiping her eyes. You're right. I'm sorry. I've been sorry for 7 years, but I didn't know how to say it. Didn't know if you'd even want to hear it. We sat in silence. The apartment felt too big, too quiet, too full of everything we hadn't said. I have something else to tell you, Vanessa said quietly. And you're going to hate it. What? The article. The one questioning your funding sources. She swallowed hard. That was my fault. One of my competitors found out about my connection to Cypher. They leaked it to hurt me professionally. I tried to contain it, but I made it worse. I'm the reason you lost that hospital contract. I'm the reason people are questioning your legitimacy. The room started spinning. You cost me my biggest client. Yes. Because of your business drama. Yes. And you're just telling me this now? I wanted to fix it first. I've been working with a crisis management team, trying to control the narrative, but... I stood up. I need to leave. Jasmine. I can't do this right now. I came here for answers and now I have more questions and I need space. Okay. She stood too, hands helpless at her sides. But please, before you go, let me help. Let me fix what I broke. I have resources, connections. I don't want your resources. The words came out as a shout. I don't want your money or your connections or your guilt-driven charity. I wanted my sister. I wanted you to come home. I wanted you at Mama's grave on the anniversary of her death. I wanted you when I was eating ramen and crying myself to sleep wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. My voice cracked. I wanted you, Nessa. Not your money. You. She was sobbing now, full-body sobs that shook her shoulders. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought giving you space was what you needed. I thought. You thought wrong. I walked to the door. My hand was on the handle when she spoke again. The second round of funding. The $2 million. I haven't transferred it yet. If you want me to cancel it, I will. If you want me out of your life completely, I'll disappear. For real this time. I'll have Catherine handle everything, and you'll never have to see me or think about me again. Whatever you need, Jazz. I'll do it. I turned to look at her. This stranger in expensive clothes with my sister's eyes. I don't know what I need, I said honestly. But I know I can't make that decision right now. I left her standing in that beautiful, empty apartment. In the elevator, I finally let myself cry. I spent 3 days in a hotel room in Manhattan, ignoring calls from everyone. Catherine tried twice. Brent sent worried texts. Even David, my lawyer, left a voicemail asking if I was okay. I wasn't okay. I was sitting in the wreckage of a story I'd been telling myself for 7 years. The story where I was the abandoned one, the victim, the sister who stayed and suffered while Vanessa ran away to some easier life. But that wasn't the whole truth, was it? I ordered room service and sat by the window, watching the city move below me. All those people with their own complicated stories, their own versions of events that probably didn't match what others would say. On the second day, I did something I hadn't done since Mama died. I called her old number. It was disconnected, of course. Had been for years. But I needed to hear the automated message, needed that small confirmation that she was really gone, that I couldn't ask her what to do. Mama had always been better at forgiveness than me. She'd forgiven our father, even though he'd left us with nothing. Forgiven bill collectors and landlords and people at church who'd looked down on us. She used to say, "Baby, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die." I'd thought that was weakness. Maybe it was wisdom. On the third day, I finally opened my laptop and looked at Cypher's metrics. We'd lost another potential client, a mid-size retail chain that had been close to signing. The tech blogs were still circling, still asking questions about my funding sources. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Vanessa. I'm sending this from a new number in case you blocked my old one. I wanted you to know that I've hired a PR firm to handle the fallout from the article. They'll issue a statement explaining that you received funding from a private equity firm as part of their initiative to support minority-owned businesses. No mention of our relationship. Your reputation will be protected. You don't need to do anything. V." I stared at the message. She was still trying to fix it. Still trying to solve my problems for me. Still not understanding that I didn't need a savior. I needed a sister. I typed out 3 different responses and deleted them all. Finally, I sent, "We need to talk. Really talk. Not in your apartment. Somewhere neutral." Her response came immediately, "Anywhere. Anytime. Just tell me when." We met the next morning in Central Park, on a bench overlooking the reservoir. It was cold, the kind of November morning that required gloves and scarves. Vanessa arrived exactly on time, wearing a long black coat and boots, her breath forming small clouds in the air. She sat down, keeping careful distance between us. For a while, we didn't speak. Just watched the joggers and the dogs and the parents pushing strollers. Finally, I said, "I've been thinking about the day you left." She tensed but didn't interrupt. "You said I didn't know what I was talking about when I accused you of running. And you were right. I didn't know. I was so caught up in my own grief, my own fear of being alone, that I didn't see yours." Jazz. Let me finish. I pulled my coat tighter. "I've spent 7 years being angry at you. And some of that anger was justified. You did leave. You did disappear. You did make unilateral decisions about my life without asking me." She nodded, tears already forming. "But I also pushed you away. That day in Mama's kitchen, I was so scared of losing you too that I said the cruelest thing I could think of. I weaponized what I knew about you, your fear of not being strong enough, of letting people down. I wanted to hurt you. You had every right to be angry. Maybe. But I didn't have the right to make you feel like you weren't allowed to grieve differently than me. To need space. To fall apart in your own way." I turned to look at her directly. "I'm not excusing what you did. The secret funding, the years of silence, that was wrong. But I'm trying to understand why you did it. And I think you were trying to love me the only way you felt safe. From a distance. Where I couldn't reject you again." Vanessa was crying openly now. "I was so scared, Jazz. Scared you'd tell me to leave. Scared you'd hate me forever. Scared that if I came back and you turned me away, I wouldn't survive it. So you tried to be there without actually being there." "Yes." She wiped her face with her glove. "And I know that's messed up. I know I should have been braver. Should have shown up and faced you and dealt with whatever came. But I wasn't brave. I was a coward who convinced herself that money could replace presence." A jogger ran past, ponytail swinging, completely absorbed in her music and her pace. I envied her simplicity. "Here's what I need you to understand," I said carefully. "Cypher is mine. My vision, my company, my success. And yes, your money helped, I can't pretend it didn't. But the work was mine. The late nights, the pitches, the building, the failing and trying again, that was me. Your money was a tool. I was the builder. I know that. Do you? Because the way you described it, you made it sound like you gave me everything. Like without you, I'd have nothing." She was quiet for a long moment. You're right. That's how I was thinking about it. Like I was saving you. But you didn't need saving, did you? You needed support. There's a difference. A huge difference. I'm sorry. Her voice was small. For all of it. For leaving, for hiding, for thinking I knew what was best for you. For being so wrapped up in my own shame that I couldn't just pick up the phone and talk to you like a normal person. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet. But something softer than anger. I'm sorry too, I said. For pushing you away. For not trying to find you sooner. For convincing myself that I was better off alone when really I was just scared of being hurt again. We sat with that for a while. So what now? Vanessa asked. I meant what I said. If you want me out of your life, out of Cypher, I'll go. I'll make sure the funding transfers to a different firm, no connection to me. You'll never have to think about this again. I considered it. It would be easier, cleaner. I could go back to Oakland and build my company without this complication. Without having to navigate the messy terrain of family and money and forgiveness. But easier wasn't always better. I don't want you gone, I said slowly. But I also can't just pretend the last 7 years didn't happen. I can't be who we were before. We're different people now. I know. So maybe we have to figure out who we are to each other now. Not twins who finish each other's sentences. Not strangers. Something new. Vanessa looked at me with something like hope. I'd like that. It's going to be hard. I'm still angry. You're still, you. We're going to mess up. Probably. And I need you to promise me something. I turned to face her fully. No more secrets. No more decisions about my life without talking to me first. No more hiding behind money or distance or good intentions. If we're going to do this, try to be sisters again, we do it honestly. Even when it's uncomfortable. I promise. She said it firmly, like a vow. Complete honesty. Even when I'm scared. Even when I think hiding would be easier. Okay. I took a deep breath. Then here's my first honest thing. I don't know if I can accept more funding from you. Not right now. It feels too complicated. She nodded, though I could see it hurt. I understand. But I also don't want you to disappear. I want to know about your life. I want to understand how you got from there to here. I want to hear about the last 7 years. Even the parts that don't involve me. I want that too. And I need time. Time to sort through my feelings, time to rebuild trust, time to figure out if we can really do this. However much time you need. A small smile tugged at my lips. Look at us. Having a mature conversation. Mama would be proud. Vanessa laughed, a real laugh, the kind I remembered from when we were kids. She'd also tell us we took way too long to get here. She'd be right. We sat for another hour, talking about small things. Her apartment, my team, the weather, a restaurant she'd tried last week. Normal sister things, tentative and careful, like learning a language we'd forgotten how to speak. When we finally stood to leave, Vanessa hesitated. Can I hug you? I hesitated too, then nodded. She wrapped her arms around me carefully, like I might break. I hugged her back, and it felt strange and familiar all at once. She smelled different, expensive perfume instead of the drugstore body spray we used to share. But underneath it, there was something that was purely her. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me another chance. Don't waste it, I said, but without malice. I won't. We exchanged new numbers. Made vague plans to talk next week. Didn't promise anything we weren't sure we could deliver. As I walked away, I looked back once. Vanessa was still standing there, watching me leave, and for the first time in 7 years, I knew she wasn't really gone. She was just figuring out how to come back. And I was figuring out how to let her. I flew back to Oakland with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. The first thing I did was call an all-hands meeting with my team. They gathered in our conference room, 12 people now, double what we'd started with. Brent leaned against the wall, arms crossed, concerned. The developers exchanged nervous glances. Everyone knew I'd disappeared to New York. Everyone knew something had shifted. I owe you all transparency, I began. There's been speculation about Cypher's funding sources, about where our money came from and whether it's legitimate. I saw a few people tense. The truth is, our primary investor has been a private equity firm called Blackwood Ventures. They specialize in supporting minority-owned businesses. What I didn't know until recently is that someone close to me, my estranged sister, was behind that investment. The room was silent. She acted anonymously because she thought I wouldn't accept help if I knew it came from her. She was probably right. I paused. But that doesn't change the fact that this company, everything we've built, is real. The code is ours. The vision is ours. The late nights, the problem-solving, the innovation, that's all you. That's all us. Brent spoke up. So what happens now? Now we prove it. I pulled up a presentation on the screen. I've been working on something. A new security protocol that goes beyond anything our competitors offer. Real-time threat detection using machine learning, integrated across multiple platforms, scalable for businesses of any size. I clicked through the slides, technical specs, market analysis, implementation timeline. This is going to take everything we have. Long hours, harder problems, no guarantee it works. But if we pull this off, no one will ever question whether we belong in this industry. Brenda, our UX designer, raised her hand. What about funding? Can we still count on Blackwood? I'm working on that, I said honestly. But either way, we move forward. We've got runway for 6 months. That's enough time to prove this concept and attract new investors if we need them. And if we can't? This from Tom, our newest developer. Then we'll have built something remarkable anyway. And that's worth more than playing it safe. I saw something shift in the room. The nervous energy transformed into something else. Determination. Brent pushed off the wall. When do we start? Tomorrow. But today, you all go home. Spend time with your families. Rest. Because starting tomorrow, we're going to work harder than we've ever worked. As the team filed out, energized and talking amongst themselves, Brent hung back. That was a hell of a speech, boss. Thanks. Is it true? About your sister? Yeah. He studied me. You okay? I thought about it. I'm getting there. For what it's worth, I never doubted this company. Not once. Money might have come from a complicated place, but what you built, that's all you. After he left, I sat alone in the conference room for a while. Then I called Vanessa. Hey, I said when she answered. Hey. I could hear the smile in her voice. You back in Oakland? Yeah. I just told my team about you. How'd that go? Better than expected. They're good people. I paused. I've been thinking about the funding. She went quiet, waiting. I can't accept more money from you directly. Not right now. It's too complicated, too much baggage attached. I understand. But, I took a breath. If Blackwood wants to remain an investor, separate from our personal relationship, I'm open to that. Standard terms, board oversight, the whole professional thing. Catherine can facilitate. You sure? No. But I'm trying to separate the business from the personal. They're two different things, and they should be treated that way. That's actually really mature of you. Don't sound so surprised. She laughed. I just mean, thank you. For finding a middle ground. I know it can't be easy. It's not. But neither is building a company, and I'm doing that anyway. We talked for a few more minutes, surface-level stuff, still careful with each other. But it felt easier than before. Less like walking through a minefield. Hey Nessa. Yeah. Next month. Thanksgiving. I usually spend it alone, order Chinese food and watch football. But if you wanted to, I don't know. Maybe we could try doing it together? Nothing fancy. Just. I'd love that. Her voice cracked. I'd really love that. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and started working on the security protocol. The next 3 months were brutal. We worked 12-hour days, sometimes longer. The machine learning integration was harder than I'd anticipated. The AI kept generating false positives, the user interface was clunky, the processing speed wasn't where it needed to be. There were moments I wanted to quit. Moments I wondered if I was pushing my team too hard, if I was chasing something impossible just to prove a point. But then we'd have a breakthrough. A solution to a problem that had seemed unsolvable. A piece of code that worked exactly as intended. Small victories that felt enormous. Vanessa and I talked weekly. Sometimes more. The conversations were still stilted sometimes, still navigating years of distance. But slowly, we were finding our rhythm. She told me about her work, the pressure of managing millions of dollars, the loneliness of success when you've cut yourself off from everyone who knew you before. I told her about Cypher, the team dynamics, the technical challenges. I told her about Brent's terrible jokes and Brenda's obsession with color theory, and how sometimes I still couldn't believe this was my life. We didn't talk much about the past. Not yet. We were still too fragile for that. Thanksgiving came. Vanessa flew to Oakland. I picked her up from the airport, and it was awkward at first, a hug that lasted a beat too long, small talk about her flight, uncertain smiles. But then we got to my apartment and started cooking, or trying to. Neither of us had inherited Mama's skills in the kitchen. The turkey's not supposed to be gray, right? Vanessa asked, peering into the oven. I don't think anything's supposed to be gray. We ordered pizza and laughed about it. Pulled out old photo albums I'd kept in storage. Cried over pictures of Mama. Argued about whether our childhood apartment had green or blue carpet. It wasn't perfect. We had moments of silence that stretched too long. Moments where old hurts flickered across our faces. But it was real. It was us trying. In January, we launched Cypher 2.0. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Tech publications called it revolutionary. Clients who'd ghosted us came back. New customers signed up faster than we could onboard them. Within 2 weeks, we had 3 acquisition offers. I sat in my office, staring at the numbers. Amounts that would make me wealthy. That would validate everything I'd worked for. That would prove to everyone, including myself, that I'd made it. I called Vanessa. They want to buy Cypher. Congratulations. She sounded genuinely happy. Which offer are you taking? I don't know if I'm taking any of them. Why not? Because it's not about the exit anymore. It's about the building, the team, the work. I started this company because I wanted to create something meaningful, not because I wanted to get acquired. So what are you going to do? Keep building. I smiled. Maybe take on a real investor. Someone who'll push me, challenge me, help me scale properly. I might know someone, Vanessa said carefully. If you're interested. Not you. Not me, she agreed. But someone I trust. Someone who won't bullshit you or try to take over your vision. I could make an introduction. I thought about it. Okay. But I'm vetting them myself. My decision, my terms. Wouldn't have it any other way. The investor Vanessa introduced me to was a woman named Patricia Hudson, 60-something, sharp as hell, with a track record of helping companies scale without losing their soul. She was tough in our first meeting. Questioned every assumption I made, challenged my growth projections, didn't accept vague answers. I loved her immediately. We closed a Series A round in March. $5 million, proper board oversight, quarterly reviews. Professional, clean mine. Blackwood remained a silent partner, exactly as we'd agreed. Vanessa and I kept that wall firmly in place. Our personal relationship was separate. Messy in its own way, but separate. We talked more often now. She visited Oakland twice. I went to New York once, met some of her friends, saw the world she'd built. It was strange, seeing her in that context. The expensive restaurants, the art gallery openings, the people who knew her as Vanessa Blake, successful investor, not Vanessa Williams, the girl from East Oakland who used to share a bedroom with her twin. But I started to understand her better. Why she'd needed to become someone new. Why the distance had felt necessary. We weren't the same people we'd been at 25. We'd both grown, both changed, both survived in our own ways. And slowly, carefully, we were learning to be sisters again. Not the sisters we'd been, that was gone, part of a past we couldn't return to. But something new. Something honest. Something that could hold the weight of everything we'd been through. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon in late May. Forbes wanted to do a profile. Rising stars in tech, women changing the cybersecurity landscape. I almost said no. I'd spent so long avoiding attention, afraid someone would dig too deep and find the messy truth about my funding, about Vanessa, about all the things I'd been trying to keep separate. But then I thought, what am I still hiding from? I said yes. The journalist, Rachel, was thorough. She interviewed my team, my clients, even tracked down some of my early investors, the ones who'd rejected me. She asked hard questions about the funding controversy, about being a black woman in tech, about the challenges I'd faced. And I answered honestly. There was a time I thought success meant doing everything alone, I told her. I thought accepting help was weakness. But I've learned that the strongest thing you can do is build a team, accept support, and be honest about your journey, including the messy parts. What changed your perspective? I thought about Vanessa. About our conversations, our careful rebuilding, our decision to be honest even when it hurt. Family, I said finally. Family that I thought I'd lost taught me that strength isn't about isolation. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. The article came out in June. There was a photo of me in my office, surrounded by my team. The headline read, Jasmine Williams, building Cypher on her own terms. It was fair, thoughtful, accurate. It mentioned the funding questions but framed them as obstacles I'd overcome, not scandals that defined me. Vanessa texted me the morning it published, so proud of you, Jazz. Mama would be too. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I called her. Hey, she answered. Did you see? I want to visit Mama's grave, I said. Together. I think it's time. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, yeah. I think it is. We flew to Oakland, Vanessa came from New York, and drove to the cemetery on a Saturday morning. It was one of those perfect California days, sunny but not too hot, with a breeze that made the trees whisper. Mama's headstone was simple. Just her name, her dates, and the phrase she'd always said, love bigger than fear. We stood there side by side, not touching but close. I'm sorry I wasn't here, Vanessa said. For the anniversaries, for the holidays. For all the days you came alone. I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't come back. We both made mistakes. Yeah. I knelt down, brushed some leaves off the stone. But we're here now. I told Mama about Cypher. About the team, the clients, the challenges we'd overcome. Vanessa told her about New York, about the life she'd built, about how she'd never stopped thinking about us. We cried. Not the desperate, broken crying from before, but something softer. The kind of tears that come with release. You know what's weird? Vanessa said after a while. I spent 7 years trying to prove I could be successful without you. Without family, without connection. Just me against the world. And I was miserable. I had money and status and everything I thought mattered, but I was so lonely, Jazz. So incredibly lonely. Why didn't you come back sooner? She was quiet for a moment. Fear. Pride. Shame. The longer I waited, the harder it got. I kept thinking there'd be a perfect moment, a perfect way to explain. But there wasn't. There was just time passing. I get that, I said. I've been doing the same thing in my own way. Telling myself I didn't need anyone, that independence was the same as strength. What changed? I thought about it. I started building something that mattered. And I realized that the things that matter most, they're not meant to be built alone. We stayed at the cemetery for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. Making plans to visit more often together. Promising to keep showing up, even when it was uncomfortable. As we walked back to the car, Vanessa said, I know things aren't perfect between us. We're still figuring it out. Yeah. But I'm glad we're figuring it out. I'm glad you didn't give up on me. I'm glad you came back. She smiled. Technically, you came to me. Details. 3 months later, Cypher hit a milestone I'd once thought impossible. 10,000 active clients. We celebrated in the office, champagne and cupcakes, and Brent making a speech that was equal parts touching and embarrassing. My team had grown to 25 people. We'd moved to a bigger space. We had a waiting list of companies wanting our services. I looked around the room at the faces of people who'd believed in me, who'd worked ridiculous hours, who'd trusted my vision even when it seemed impossible. This was mine. Not because I'd done it alone, but because I'd been brave enough to accept help. Smart enough to build a team. Strong enough to be honest about my struggles. That night, I video called Vanessa. We hit 10,000, I told her. Jazz. That's incredible. Couldn't have done it without you. I said it simply, meaning it. I know it's complicated. I know we're still working through stuff. But you gave me a chance when no one else would. That matters. You would have found a way, she said. With or without me. That's who you are. Maybe. But it would have taken longer. Been harder. And I might not have my sister back. Her eyes filled with tears. You've always had me, Jazz. Even when I wasn't there, you had me. I know that now. We talked for another hour. She told me about a new investment she was considering. I told her about a developer I was thinking of promoting. Normal stuff. Sister stuff. Before we hung up, I said, "Hey Nessa. Yeah. Christmas. You should come to Oakland. Maybe we can attempt another turkey." She laughed. "Only if we have pizza on standby." Deal. After the call, I sat in my apartment, the same apartment where I'd almost given up, where I'd stared at that mysterious wire transfer and wondered if I was losing my mind. So much had changed. So much had stayed the same. I was still the girl from East Oakland with big dreams and a stubborn streak. Still the one who worked too hard and forgot to eat lunch. Still carrying my mother's voice in my head, reminding me to love bigger than fear. But I was also someone new. Someone who'd learned that accepting help wasn't weakness. That family could be fractured and still worth fighting for. That success meant nothing if you were too afraid to share it with the people who mattered. I pulled up my laptop and opened a new document. Started typing. Dear Mama. I know you're not here to read this, but I need to say it anyway. Vanessa and I are okay. Not perfect, but okay. We're learning how to be sisters again, how to trust each other, how to show up even when it's hard. You'd be proud of us. Maybe exasperated that it took us so long, but proud. Cypher is thriving. I'm building something that matters, helping businesses protect themselves, creating jobs, making a difference. It's what you always said I could do, back when I was too young to believe it. I miss you every single day. Miss your advice, your laugh, your way of making everything seem possible even when it wasn't. But I'm carrying you with me. In every decision I make, every risk I take, every moment I choose love over fear. We're going to be okay, Mama. All of us. Finally. Love, Jazz. I saved the document, closed my laptop, and looked out the window at Oakland's skyline. Somewhere in New York, Vanessa was probably still working. She always worked late. Somewhere in this city, my team was sleeping, dreaming their own dreams. Somewhere, people were using Cypher to protect their businesses, their data, their futures. And somewhere, I like to think, Mama was watching. Smiling that knowing smile. Saying what she always said when Vanessa and I finally worked through our fights. See? I knew y'all would figure it out. I'd spent so long running from the past, from family, from the messy, complicated truth of who I was and where I came from. But the real victory wasn't in escaping it. It was in accepting it. All of it. The love and the loss, the betrayal and the forgiveness, the anger and the grace. My company was successful. My sister was back in my life. I was building something meaningful while healing something broken. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple. It wasn't the fairy tale ending where everything wrapped up neat and clean. But it was real. It was mine. It was ours. And that was enough. Before I close this out, I want to hear from you. What would you have done differently in my place? If your sibling disappeared for 7 years, then returned as your secret investor, would you have forgiven them? Would you have accepted their help? I'm genuinely curious what you took away from this. Thank you for watching. For staying with me through this whole story. For listening not just to what happened, but to what it meant. If this resonated with you, if you've ever had to rebuild a relationship, or accept help you didn't think you needed, or learn that strength sometimes looks like vulnerability, drop a comment. Share your story. We're all figuring this out together. Take care of yourselves. And remember, love bigger than fear.